Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Chick Chat and Chill. I am Laura Fickett, your co-host. I am the owner of Financial Education and Business Coaching with Fickett Financial Coaching, and I love to help people make more money, manage it better, and retain it to build their wealth. We are not here to talk about that. We're talking about transition today, but before we do that, I'm going to transition to my co-host, Antoinette.
Why, thank you. I'm Antoinette. I'm the owner of Pixel This, which is a full-service design firm. So whether you have a big brand or a local gem, we help you find your voice because every business deserves more than just a logo. So today's topic is all about changes and transitions, and we thought it'd be a really good time at the end of the summer. A lot of people have those summer blues. They call it SAD, which is seasonal
affective disorder.
Yeah. So that's actually a really big thing for a lot of people. And I laughed when Laura said, the last show, how she runs on solar power.
Oh, I am solar powered.
And I think that's for a lot of people. So I think it's an important topic just to, so you don't get those doldrums and how to kind of keep it up and some tactics and stuff like that. So is there anything you've learned when transition happens, like some go-to moves? Or
you know what, like I lived in New England, and so there's 4 seasons up there, and there's transition, but then there's school transition, like when the kids go back to school or when they get out of school, and then there's transition from holiday, which I'm fresh off a holiday. And the one thing that I learned is that it's uncomfortable, it can be depressing, and so you have to I just try to focus on creating the new structure. So I think for me personally, the thing is I have one structure, and then transition means I need that structure's gone. So say the kids are off for the summer and then they go back to school. Well, now I'm used to having them home all day. I'm used to things being a little more chaotic or whatever. And then we transition and they go back to school. And a lot of parents are probably like, yay! But for me, sometimes I'm like, oh, I miss those little buggers, right? So I think the quicker I can get into a new routine that feels comfortable, the better, because then I feel unsettled and I feel lost. And so the sooner I can create a new routine, so I'll do a time budget. Okay, now what do I want to do with my time? How do I want to be productive? What's my new schedule? That kind of stuff. And the sooner I can get into that routine, the better I feel. Vacation transition, I think it's a little bit more difficult because I'm back from Europe, and the contrast between Europe and the United States is like culture shock. And so that's a little bit more difficult. So I think one of my best friends, Mandy, and I have thought about this, that if you go on a really long vacation where you're kind of sick of being on vacation, then it makes the transition easier.
You could have your last stop be terrible, where you're like, oh my God, I can't wait to get home.
Well, my last stop was in Iceland, and it was wonderful, but it was after 3 weeks of not being at home.
Yeah.
So if the vacation is too short, you're like, oh, I was just getting into vacation mode. But I think 3 weeks is pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
People are like, what? Yep. I do free consultations.
I know for me, I've never had a problem with summer ending and going to fall. And I think part of it is or even any season, I have a
Not
tendency.
even in Connecticut when you were in
No, because you know what, my birthday is Labor Day, so that I was always excited for my birthday, and I used to be a huge football fan. So when it got a little political, that kind of went by the wayside. But I just was so excited. I loved football so much that when I was so over. When you're just exhausted, but you can't sleep, I would make my ex play PlayStation. So I'd hear body slamming. And that would be so therapeutic. So soothing that I would fall asleep.
Those concussions. So much fun.
But I'm a goofball, but I find that I really, when a new season starts, I get really excited for the things of that season. So with the fall, I'm like, oh my God, I could bake everything pumpkin and I could do this. And I have this one friend, Brenda, and it's so cute because as soon as Dunkin' Donuts has their pumpkin spice, she could have pumpkin spice anything. She wants pumpkin spice candles. And it's just so cute because she gets so excited for it. So
So find something that excites you about the new
especially
transition.
especially when it's seasonal stuff. Like in the fall, they have, corn mazes and Halloween. So maybe start thinking about decorations or what you're going to be and work on a cool decoration instead of waiting to the last minute and then buying the one unripped package that doesn't fit you. But those are things you could look forward to or decorate for the season. And I don't know if it's because I'm more artsy too. Like I really enjoy those seasonal decorations and making things like that. So I find that really, really interesting, when you kind of, and the other thing too is my church would always do, back in Connecticut, they started this 21-day prayer and fast in September. So it was a good, you were kind of looking forward to that. And it's hard to describe unless you go through it. But I likened it to when you see Lord of the Rings. Bear with me.
Okay, I'm waiting for this, this transition.
So you know how they go off and have this huge adventure?
Yes.
So that's kind of like the prayer and fasting. You're on this thing and you're battling all the enemy trying to, beat you down and do all these things. And you have all these amazing revelations. And then you go back into town where none of those people, did prayer and fasting. And they're like, oh, you were gone.
You battled an orc?
Yeah. No, but it was one of those, unless you were part of it, you couldn't understand the enormity of going through a thing like that. So to just hear about, prayer and fasting, you're like, well, until you do that for 21 days, it's just life-changing. At least it was for me. So I like the thing with seasons that kind of like you were saying, develop a new transition or something that all of a sudden you're not comparing today to yesterday when school wasn't around or when you could wear flip-flops or, you know what I mean? Start something.
Don't focus on the depressing parts. Try to focus on the exciting parts.
Yeah.
I had to do a little fasting when I got back from vacation because vacation stomach is totally different than actual stomach. Desserts every night, that's not a thing.
No, yeah.
I had to do a little fasting there. But I think that unsettled feeling, what I've learned is that if there's something that's recurring, so I always relate things to finances, right? So I tell people if my truck is always going to break down because it's 20 years old and it breaks down, I shouldn't be surprised. So every month I should plan for the fact that it's going to break down. I should set aside a couple $1,000s a year for repairs because it shouldn't be an emergency and it shouldn't be a surprise. So if you know that, every year I get a little sad in the fall or I get a little sad after the holidays or I get a little sad after vacation or whatever, you know that about yourself and it is a pattern, then instead of focusing on, I'm going to be sad or I'm going to be this, try to break it some way, shape or form because doing the same thing over and over again does not produce different results. So this for the vacation one, I really do. I mean, because I vacationed with my family and then my kids, now they're all gone back to their own lives and whatever, my older kids and things like that. And so you have all that, all that energy and all that excitement. And then literally now it's just okay, you got to go back to work. And if you love your job, which I do, it's probably better. But if you hate your job, probably not so great. But there's no sense in like Antoinette said, focusing on those negative feelings or last week I was sitting drinking a pina colada in a pool and now I'm here at a desk with people I don't like. That's not helpful, right? So then you have to, that's why people start planning the next vacation when they get back from one vacation. Or you just have to focus on I can hardly wait. It's my mentor and friend Shelly. She talks about I can hardly wait, and I coach at my workshop. But kids are always I can hardly wait for this birthday party, or I can hardly wait to go to the park, or I can hardly wait for Christmas, or I can hardly wait for this. And adults were I can hardly stand how the Valentine's Day decorations are out in October, and I can hardly stand my in-laws, and I can hardly stand. Look for more. I can hardly wait. I can hardly wait till Friday afternoon, or I can hardly wait. I think you just have to try. Fake it till you make it, I guess.
Yeah.
To get over the transition hump.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely things you can do to help. A lot of times people with that, the sad, whatever, it's because there's less light or less daylight. But there's things you could do to add more light into your schedule. So obviously in the summer, there's the beach and whatever, but take advantage maybe now that the weather's a little cooler. You could take in some pretty sunsets. You could do more inside with pretty candles. Like
cut a big hole in your roof. Like, I don't know.
get that skylight you always wanted. But there's things you could do that lift your spirits. So fall on those things. Or, for example, like maybe rather than planning your next vacation, maybe plan a spa day in 3 weeks. And then that's a great thing to look forward to instead of, I have to wait till next year. There's things you can do in your life that give you those, I'm excited moments that I think it's important, especially if you know this about yourself, to work that into your schedule. So anything from embracing the seasonal festivities to knowing your own, like everyone should know ways they can put themselves in a better mood, whether it's a song or whether, whatever.
Sunshine.
Fun time. But what I like too is that with the seasons, it is a time, kind of like you said initially, develop a new routine. So if let's say, during the summer, you're always running around and you realize your house is kind of like sloppy, or your things are a little disorganized. Well, go splurge and maybe get some new closet organizers, and you could finally, do all that, or get some new outfits that you're excited to wear. These are things, they don't have to be really high value items, but there are small things you could do in your life that'll make your life that much better, or add joy every time you open your pantry, or every time, whatever you do something, or, if the color of, whatever your front door upsets you, which I'm taking, a
My
clue
example,
from,
yeah.
if it's always annoyed you or it's getting beat up, paint it a pretty color that's going to make you happy. There's so many things you can do that will lift your spirits. And now that you're not running around like crazy in the summer, it's a great time to do it.
Yeah, it's true. What you should not do is you should not go buy a kitten or or puppy or bunny or
Yeah, that's always like, oops.
I think some people look for the quick fix. You should not go Amazon shopping. You should not, go buy a tub of ice cream or any of that kind of stuff. I think one thing I heard, and I was just in Ireland and I didn't hear anybody do it there, but I thought it was something from a long time ago, Irish people, that they say sadness is upon me, anxiety is upon me, depression is upon me. They don't identify as a sad person or someone that has anxiety or someone that has depression. They say it's upon me, and then tomorrow it will be off of me. And so that's how they think of these emotions. So I also think, realize that it's just temporary. Do something that you can, whatever you can do to let the time pass. It's what I call a time problem. As time passes, you will get out of the funk. But don't do anything drastic, like getting a pet or going to the casino and betting it all on black, or don't do anything drastic. Realize it's temporary. You're just, you're just feeling anxious, or you're feeling unsettled because of this kind of transition, whether it's a holiday or something like that. And it's only on you, and it will be off of you in a short amount of time. It usually only takes I think a week or two. For me personally, whenever there's some sort of transition, I'm I feel uneasy, something's going on. It usually only takes a week or two, and then it's perfectly fine. I mean, it's all kinds of transitions though. I remember when I had my first child, they let me take her home from the hospital. It was so weird. We just put her in the little car seat. I know, but I just put her in the car seat and put her in the car, and I got home and I was I can't believe they just let me walk out the door with this baby, and now what am I supposed to do? And I remember looking at
you're
her.
A good mother qualifier,
Mother of the year. No,
we needed the car seat. Oops.
They don't let you take home a baby without a car seat. That much I know. And they checked that thing. But no, I remember her sleeping in her little bucket, and I was now, what do I do? That was a big transition, right? Because life is never the same after that. But then you get into a new habit, you get into a new routine, and it's perfectly fine. In that scenario, what you do is feed them and change them and put them to sleep. That's basically they should just send you home with a pamphlet to keep them safe and alive. Like, really, that's what you need to do.
Exactly.
But there's some big transitions in life that happen. Like there's, marriage and divorce and children and all kinds of moving and those big transitions that happen in life. I think the words of 2025 aren't from Sesame Street anymore. Like they're not like the word of the day is let's be happy. It's like the word of the day is we're all depressed and anxious. I think the key is to recognize that though you are not a depressed and anxious person, and if you feel like you are and need medication, whatever, I'm not a doctor, but those feelings from transition, they're caused and they're only on you and they'll be off you in a short amount of time. And, do your best to cope and get through it because we all feel that way. I think that's the other part is people think like, oh, why am I so sad? Or why am I feel so weird? Like I remember when my dad passed away and I had to go back to school. My mom forced me to go back to school like 2 weeks later. I was 14 and everybody else was normal. And I was different. Like I did not feel the same at all. It was like such a hard transition. I'm like, how can they all be the same? And I feel so drastically different.
Yeah.
But then like the new version of me, after a couple weeks came about. And after like 30 years, I got over it, so it's a joke, but not really.
No, but I think too, for one thing, if let's say you had this amazing summer and you're in this season of now you're depressed.
Okay, I'm there.
I mean, so you're there. Something that would at least, rather than being at least show some gratitude for the fun things you had. Like maybe talk about the fun memories you made or something. Even showing any sort of gratitude. If you're truly grateful for what you have, it's hard to be depressed if you're grateful. It's one of those because it's like, oh, I had this amazing time, So that's always a good start, and you could just, I think, work from there, start some new routines. And I think with a lot of people, there's so many people that they're just resistant to change.
Oh, yeah.
And they're so big into it could be even winning the lottery and they'll find something to complain about. Like, I'm going to have people banging on my door and they're going to want money. Some people.
God, I can handle that problem. I'm just telling you right now.
No, I know I can handle that problem. So, but there are people that will find something to complain about no matter what the issue is. So.
Oh, that's right. You lived in New England. Just for those New England fans, we love you. Love you. Just I'm solar powered, so
yeah. No, but people do find that. So the main thing is just find things that you're grateful for, and then understand part of life is change, and some of the things that you enjoy now in your life weren't there a year ago or 5 years ago. And if you stayed stuck in that pattern, you might have not met the person you're with, or you might not have the job you're with. Like sometimes it takes getting fired to get your dream job, or it takes,
truly does.
Yeah. So what I found too, I've had a lot of catastrophes happen throughout my life.
Daily?
Yeah. Yeah, I am that person.
She's so funny.
But I've always been one of those that, I mean, obviously you'll deal with the situation, but then I also understand that I don't see the bigger picture. I'm not God that's, creating this quilt of different things merged into one. I'm just focused on the one little thing or one tremendous thing that just went wrong in my life. And sometimes that needs to be cleared away to open up something better, or it needs, other times I was going through all this stuff and it's I was trying to sell a house and that buyer fell through and this, and now I'm trying to sell it for less. And it was this whole big thing. But rather than me focusing on less money, maybe it opened up a different opportunity that had nothing to do about money, but location or something else. Sometimes you got to realize what you're focused on, the bad part of the change might be so insignificant to the great thing about the new opportunity ahead.
I think really what you're talking about too, and one of the things that like I admire about your personality is that you have the ability to put things into perspective. So like, and see that there's maybe different paths. A lot of times, like if something bad was going to happen, like, oh, the buyer fell through and whatever, people are just like, oh, now I have to, there's only this one path. And you're like, well, but maybe if this happens, then this happens, and then this happens. And then, and so it's really, I think because you've had a lot of struggles in life, that you're able now to put things into perspective, and you're able to see all the different options available for any outcome. And I like that's something to be, it's not that Antoinette and I don't have struggles. We have struggles all the time. Like it's our perspective and our gratitude about what's happening. I think that is different. But sometimes transition manifests itself in the weirdest ways for me. Like when I was in New England, the winter would be like really long. And then, you do so much during the holiday season, and there's like so much, like there is pumpkin spice, and then there's like apple cider, and there's like, all kinds of stuff. And then January comes and New Year, and then it's cold and it's dark and the days are short, and I wouldn't want to cook anymore. Like everything kind of tasted the same, and like I couldn't figure out what to eat anymore. And I just got so like, I used to joke that I wanted to be like a bear in hibernation, like because I was putting on extra pounds too. Little fluffy during the winter, need some extra insulation, but it manifests itself like in physical things like that, where you just lose interest in the weirdest things sometimes. And when that happens, that's when I'm like, okay, I need to look up a new recipe. I need to bake something. So if you start to feel like I normally am interested in watching movies, but I don't feel interested in watching movies, that is a form of depression. Like if you find that you're in a transitional phase and you're unsettled and things feel chaotic, whatever, and the things that you used to find joyful, you're not, you have to force yourself to do them. Like I couldn't just be like, you know what? I am just going to go in a cave and not eat for 3 months. Like, we'll see how the bears do it. You have to you have to power through that stuff. And I think that takes like mental toughness.
Yeah.
Because I did not want to cook. I didn't feel like eating. Everything just felt bland and blah. Like February in Massachusetts, I'm like, bleh. Like done, and I had to, okay, like what could I bake, or what could I cook, or what new recipe could I try? Like, and some of them come out well and some of them don't, but it gets you out of the habit and the routine and the depressive state.
Yeah.
But it's a depressive state. Like it obviously didn't last forever because I ate so much on vacation. It was ridiculous.
Well, I remember when I was living up north, and I was talking to somebody, and they lived in Nantucket. So
There once was
this man from Nantucket. So
sorry, it's like a throwback in my head.
I know.
Right there.
Now she's like, "Why did I give her that idea?" But
trigger words.
But I was talking to him, and Nantucket's a very seasonal driven area. They get a lot of people in the summer that go through, and in the winter, no one's like, I'm going to Nantucket. Like nobody. So I was talking to him about it, and he said something that it just made me so happy. And I said, well, how's Nantucket in the winter? And he goes, it's so romantic. And that was such a sweet take on it, because it's not all these people around, and it's his time to be able to enjoy that quietness with his wife and build a fire and not have to worry about what's going on in town. And I think if you're struggling with something, look at those around you that seem to be enjoying that time period and ask them, what do they like most about this time or the fall? Like everybody has, even people who are depressed, most people could say, this is my favorite thing about the fall. Most people have a favorite something. So if you ask enough people, it might give you ideas that you didn't even have. you know? Like, I would have never thought, like, ooh, romantic, you know, whatever. But then I ended up doing like a bed and breakfast in the winter in some like little quiet town. And it was,
In
it was,
Nantucket?
it wasn't in Nantucket, but it was someplace else in Massachusetts. And it was really sweet. We got a horse.
It's like I went to Worcester. It's
No,
fantastic.
but we did like the horse-drawn buggy in the snow and all these things that I would have never really thought about. But he planted that idea in my head. I'm like, let's just plan a bunch of like really romantic things and, you know, do stuff around that. So, like I said, if you don't have the idea, other people have ideas what they like about the holiday. So use them. They're all around you. People are more than happy to share what their favorite thing is.
It's 2025. You can go on AI and be like, what's something I can do in the holiday on Flagler Beach at January at 10 p.m. or whatever. And they'll be like, all these things that you can do. Don't swim with the sharks. But, but no, it's true. Like there are good parts to every single thing. You just have to find them. And sometimes it's easier than others. But transition can be hard. I'm glad we talked about this because we are in a transitional phase right now. It's August here in Florida while we're taping this. When you're watching it, I don't know when it's going to be, but we're transitioning. My son just went back to school. I just came off of vacation, and everybody dispersed, and now I have to transition back to work, and I have to transition back to a new routine, and we're transitioning into the fall, and this is one of the first times I don't feel like that vacation depression. I don't feel, so it only took me like till my late 40s to figure it out. I mean, so for you young kids, it's just a couple more decades and you'll be there. Like,
no, but
it is true though.
Yeah.
Like it does take a lot of experiences. Like I didn't fall out of my crib and I'm just like, yay. I was a depressed, like moody teenager, lost my dad when I was 14. Like all kinds of stuff happened, and it takes work. Yeah. It takes work. It takes research. It takes wanting to be happy, wanting to change your routine. Like it takes a lot of effort. But
I think the key first step is just identifying you're in a downward spiral.
I'm feeling depressed right now.
Yeah.
But not say I'm depressed.
Yeah. Like recognize that you're feeling the certain way. And the thing is I'll say this really, really briefly, but there was this story. It was like a proverb that I heard many, many moons ago, but it was like this.
Was it about a man from Nantucket?
No, this was a man from China. Oh. So he supposedly had this beautiful white horse or whatever.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So the king loved this horse and he wanted to buy it and he offered him all this money. And the guy's like, absolutely not. This horse is like family to me. I could never sell it. So all the townspeople are like, oh, that's so stupid. Why would you not sell it? You should have. And then the horse ran away. And they were like, oh, what bad fortune you have. Had you have sold it to the king, you would have made all this money. Now you're just out a beautiful horse. You have nothing to show for it. And then he said, don't say that. Life is just life. And you're attaching whether something is good or bad just based on circumstances. Life isn't good or bad. You're just making it that way by your perception. So it turns out the horse ended up coming back and it brought all its other beautiful horses with him. And now all of a sudden he had all these horses. So he was able to keep the horse he loved and sold the others and he made all this money. And then everyone's like, oh, you have all this good fortune and oh, you're so lucky. And he goes, again, it's not luck. It's what you make of a situation. And the whole story goes on and on and on. Then his son's on a horse and he falls off and he breaks his leg. And then everyone's like, oh, I can't believe your son broke his leg. That's terrible. And he kept telling the people, like, stop. Making
maybe it is, maybe it isn't.
Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. You just don't know. And it turned out then the country went to war and all the men got drafted except his son because he had a broken leg and therefore,
what good fortune.
Yeah. So then what good fortune. So it was back and forth. And again, the same thing could happen. Like I could be stuck in traffic and I could sit there and get all depressed about it. Or I could just sit there and go, you know what? I might have saved myself from a car wreck. Had I been racing, maybe something, the thing is, you don't know, what
It's perspective.
It's totally perspective. So the same situation that, ended up with this farmer that was totally good luck, ended up being totally bad luck with just a little switch. And I've had plenty of things in my life that on first glance, you'd be like, oh my God, that's terrible. But then you realize maybe a month later or a year later or even 5 years later, like, wow, that ended up to be a really good teaching lesson that brought me to this place.
Yeah.
So
I really liked this person I had worked with when I worked in public accounting, and we had to let her go. I unfortunately had to be the person to let her go. She was so mad and she was so angry, and she'd been there like 2 decades, and how could they do this and whatever. And then 6 months later, she had contacted me that she found a job where they appreciated her, and it was amazing, and it was such a gift, and she would have never left if she hadn't been fired.
Yeah.
And she was like, I'm now so grateful. But 6 months ago, she was not grateful.
Yeah.
So we can't see what the future is. We just have to know that God has a plan for us, and it's
Exactly.
good. It's good like all the time.
Yeah.
And put it into perspective. And if we're feeling temporary feelings because of any kind of transition, just know they're temporary.
Yeah.
And try to improve every single time. And then when you're in your late 40s, maybe you're we got to close it out.
Yes, but next week is going to be super interesting. Well, we're going to just have a chick chat.
Yeah, that's it. It's just chicks chatting next time.
Like no subject. We don't know what we're going to talk about.
We're just going to catch up, and everybody that's watching is going to actually see what girls talk about.
Yeah. So, and I know it's one of those, like, after we tape, a lot of times, people say like, oh my God, the stuff after you finish taping is like better than the stuff you taped.
Well,
And
that's what you're going to hear. Censor it.
yeah.
Antoinette.
So I'll be good. I hope. But yes, definitely join us next week and be a part of our chick chat. So until then, never stop laughing.
And never stop learning. We'll see you soon.